Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome again to the Beyond Africa podcast with me, Ngalim Bernard, your host. Today we're discussing Cameroon again because Cameroon is organizing presidential elections in which the president is 92 years old. He's been in power for 42 years. He's running to succeed himself. And the opposition have been struggling to get a single candidate, but they've not been able to designate one candidate. However, the elections are in October and we are in August. So along the line, maybe the opposition is going to get one candidate. However, our conversations today is going to focus on two things. First, we're going to talk about the meetings the Secretary General at the presidency is organizing. That is Ferdinand Ngo Ngo. He's inviting different stakeholders to the presidency to discuss about the elections. And secondly, we're going to discuss about Archbishop Kleda of Douala. Recently, he published a communique or a pastoral letter in which he called the government of Cameroon to certain critical issues, hoping that the government could implement these issues to review the governance strategies and even review their candidates for the elections. So we're going to talk about this with my guests in the studio who are very knowledgeable and interesting people on the Cameroonian political landscape. Before I introduce them to you, please kindly like, subscribe, comment, and also share this conversation with your friends, your networks, your brothers and your sisters, so they know what is happening in Cameroon and, of course, contribute to the conversations. So let me first of all introduce Professor Aimé BONNY to you. He's a member of the civil society and he's been actively very vocal and interested in the conversations around these elections. You're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast, Professor Aimé BONNY.
Hello, my dear Ngalim. Thank you to invite me to this podcast. I share my deep recognition to your work. I also congratulate all people, all Cameroonians who are very interested to see how we will move to another republic with the third president in our country. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much. My next guest on the program is Franck Ghis ONGUENE. He is a militant of the PCRN political party, and he's going to share his views about the political party, how they perceive what we're going to be discussing about, and where they stand on the critical issues. You're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast, Franck.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bernard. It's a big pleasure. It's a big pleasure for me to share this podcast with you guys and with all your viewers all around the world. You know, we have only one country at the end of the day, so it's very important for us to discuss and think about how we want to build this country and what legacy we want to leave for our kids and for our grandkids. So it's a big pleasure for me to take part of this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Franck. You're based in the United States. Is that in Washington, D.C. or in Texas?
I'm in Chicago, Illinois. So, yeah. But to vote, I have to go to Washington, D.C. To vote, to apply for the election and to vote, I have to go to Washington, D.C. So I'm kind of used to.
Thank you so much. And you're raising one of the complications around the elections for the Cameroonian diaspora because the polling stations are kind of there are few. In the United States, we have only in the embassy in Washington, D.C., and it's a very big country. So it plays a role in discouraging others from going out to vote. So have you come across any Cameroonians who are reluctant to go vote because of the distance in the location of the polling station?
Yes, a lot of Cameroonian, because going from Chicago to Washington, D.C. is around 12 hours. If you have to do a round trip, it's something like 24, 26 hours if you take the road. Yes, if you take the plane, it's possible, but you know, it's not only easy for everybody. So this is the first thing. And even the paperwork are very crazy, to be honest with you, because there are some paperworks that the Cameroonian, the Elecam acts, who doesn't have nothing with Cameroonian paperwork. Like Elecam want to control a foreigner paperwork. That doesn't even make sense. Like, okay, if you have to vote, you have to show me that you're a permanent resident of this country, but you are not allowed to control if someone is permanent resident or not, because you don't have the process, you don't have the system to check if my document is true or not. Of course, you can ask me to show you my green card. I can do it. But how can you know that my green card is authentic if you don't have the system? So this is the very first stupid, for me, I mean, very stupid thing and very fool thing that we want to do. But it's normal because, to be honest with you, they know that most of the population of diaspora are against their policies. So they just want to, do their best to reduce the possibility for people out here to take part of the process. But I'm a relentless person, so I don't care. I don't care about all that. I did my best to apply, and now I will do the same thing to vote for my candidate.
Yeah, that's interesting to understand your relentlessness and your dedication and sacrifice to get this going. But when you listen to other Cameroonians, even of those who support your candidate that we're talking about, do you see that they have that degree of determination to do all these investments, pay flights, go by ride, pay hotels, just to go vote at the embassy?
No, because, and that's the other thing, is that most of us here, we are working. You have to leave your job, like, for maybe, if you have to, for example, when I went to apply over there, I had to take like maybe 4 or 5 days, let's say a week off. You have to take a week off. It's a lot of money that you have to lose, because if you don't have money, you cannot put food on your table, you cannot pay your bills. So for many Cameroonians, this sacrifice is too much, Imagine, even if you have to renew your passport, you have to do the same thing. So fly to Chicago or something like that before. But today it's possible to do it online. But how is it possible to apply? For example, they know how to, is it possible to apply for your passport online today? But it's not possible even to start the application for the electoral list online. How is it possible? So most of the Cameroonians cannot do that kind of sacrifice only to vote. And this is the first part. The other part is that a lot of Cameroonians are discouraged about politics in Cameroon. Everybody knows that the same person will win, the same person will be on the top, So most of the Cameroonians are very discouraged about that process. But we don't have the choice. We have to, I don't want to say that we have to show the example, but at least we have to do our best to motivate other people. Personally, this is what I try to do. I hope a lot of Cameroonians will follow me, not only for this election, but only for the other, for the next one. But basically, it's very important to take part of the process.
Thank you so much, Frank. Is it the same situation in France where Cameroonians could only register for the elections at the embassy?
The situation is a little bit different because in France, we have 2 diplomatic representation. We have the embassy in Paris, and we have a consular in Marseille. And Marseille and Paris are located in a different place. Marseille is almost in the south. Paris is almost in the north. So you can divide France in 2 parts. And you know that France is a more smaller than USA. So in France, the trip to go to the diplomatic place and to enroll, it's less challenging than in USA. But even here is not so easy. You have another challenge, is that the diplomatic representation make all things that people will be discouraged. They open the enrollment very later in the day and they close very soon. Such things, so that the CPDM, the Cameroonian government, do all their best to reduce the number of people who will have the possibility to vote, because they don't want that the most people will give their opinion in our situation. That is one of the main of the fault that we are observed in the country. That's why me personally, after what is happening in the Cour constitutionnelle, I'm very skeptic with the issue of this vote. I don't know how the candidate of Ongene will do that. Mr. Clement Tangana will pronounce its name and not the Paul Biya names. For me, it's just impossible.
Okay, but I wanted to clarify one thing, still about the registration, but I want to talk about that with you, Frank. Some countries have, some countries are grouped for Cameroonian representation. The embassy will be in one country and it will represent about 4 different countries. So you need a visa to go to that country before you apply to the electoral role. So how are Cameroonians that you know within your parties and within your civil society organization networks talking about this? What information do you get from them? Is it encouraging, discouraging? Are they going out there?
It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I used to live in Egypt like for a year, and the Cameroonian embassy of Egypt cover like I think 5 countries. You have Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and I think 1 or 2 more. Even to travel in those countries, being a black person, trying to travel to those countries, something crazy. So to be honest with you, as the professor just said, they did everything to discourage, and it's normal because we are talking about more than 6 million Cameroonian living in diaspora, according to the parliament. So to the numbers of the parliament, we are 6 million Cameroonian, and 6 million Cameroonian is even more than all the Cameroonian that took part in the last elections in 2018. So basically, it's very, very, very difficult to have the feeling that diaspora can really, really be involved in the election process. So we just have to do our best, and what we can do is to make some for those who cannot take part in the process. At least they can make some financial support. They can communicate. They can do their best to mobilize their people in Cameroon back home. So basically, this is what they can do, but they cannot actively take part. Even we have to fix whenever this regime will change, to how to really, really use the potential of our diaspora to build our country. Maybe some few days ago, I did a video based on a very important information about France. We was just talking about France. In France, every year we have more than 1,250 Cameroonians engineer trained in engineer school. 1,250 Cameroonian every single year. So, but we don't have engineers in Cameroon. When we have a problem in Cameroon, we have to call Chinese. We have to call French people. We have to call American. But we have engineers. So how can we involve our diaspora in our development process? This is the real question that we have to ask. Maybe after this regime.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk about that maybe in a different podcast, because one of the objectives for which I founded this podcast was to reignite that conversation between the African diaspora and the continent, to ensure that the brain drain, that is those of us leaving the continent and already established outside, we can use our networks, our intellect, and the resources we have built from here to contribute to the development of the continent. So that is the fundamental reason for which I started this podcast, and we'll definitely have to engage in that in future conversations. Prof, I wanted to come over to you. You already mentioned that with the decision of the Constitutional Council, you are skeptical about the whole electoral process. For those you have out there in France, whom you know, of the different political parties, do you see any excitement and interest to go register when the register was still open? Did you see people really interested to go register at the time?
Yes, I think that people were interested to register, but there are many difficulties. One of the difficulties that I've mentioned, Ongene, the condition that Elecam put in the face of people regarding their situation in France, if they have some documents from the embassy. We know that many people, many Africans, many Cameroonians in France and in other countries abroad came through not official way, but they're still Cameroonian. They are Cameroonian. They sent a lot of money in Cameroon to support families, so to support the government, because what you are sending, for instance, for the medical purpose of your family, normally is the government should have been support medical cover. But as we don't have couverture sanitaire universelle in Cameroon, now family participation that cover this part. So many people who live in abroad support their family in Cameroon. So help government to face with such difficulties. So the government should recognize that these people have all right to give their opinion in the rest, in the election that we have soon. But they know, the government know that most of people abroad are in the opposition. So they don't want to give the opposition another possibility to fight against them and to rule them from the presidency. We observe the motivation of people, but also I can tell you that Cameroonians are not so serious with serious things, because we know that some people sought to register in the last days. Even when the president decides to call the electoral corpus, we saw people rushing to the embassy to register, although the registration were open 1 year before. Cameroonians were so responsible who try to do it as soon as possible, but they was faced with difficulty from the embassy, from the government. And you have also other Cameroonians who are not so aware of the fact that voting is very important to change our country.
Thank you so much. But when I listen to both of you, it's like voting is not important because the government has already made it absolutely impossible for citizens to vote or for anything to change.
No, I would not say that. I think this is one of the reasons why Cabral Libé in 2017 decided to put in place this project that he called 11 million of citizens, because he noticed, and it's true, you can even check the numbers, you will know that every presidential elections, we have the feeling that the winner of the election is the President Paul Biya, but it's not the case. The winner of elections is people who decide not to take part in the process. So it's resignation and abstention, and this is the real problem. And it's not only a problem in Cameroon, but in Cameroon the problem is very deep because of how we grow, how we've been trained, what is the perception that the population have about politics. Even in your own family, when you in your family, people know that you talk about politics. It's a problem, even for your own family. I don't know. I was listening to a video some days ago. A mother was talking to her son, say, "Oh, I don't want to hear you talking about MSC anymore, because if something happened to you, you have to tell them that you don't have any mother, you don't have any father." And so politics is considered as a dangerous activity in our country, and the government work a lot to make young people think that even politics doesn't have sense. Even the age. In many different countries, we are in the United States. I'm in the United States. You are in France, for example. In that country, you can vote when you have 18 years. But in Cameroon, it's not possible. It's illegal to vote when you have 18 years. The other problem is even to take part of as a candidate, you have age restrictions. I was so surprised when people was like, "Oh, how do you want to take part in the process if you know that you don't have 35 years?" Which is okay, because the law says you're supposed to have 35 years to candidate as a president. But for me, I don't think that it makes sense. If you think you can, what do people think that if you have 30 years you cannot rule a country? In our back then in our different, in our kingdoms, African kingdoms, age didn't make nothing. If you want to be the king, if you have to be the king, no matter your age, as long as you have this, you have chosen either by the people, either by the tradition as the king of the realm, you will run the kingdom. But we have the feeling that you're supposed to have 40. You're supposed to, even the president. He's been very young when it came to the affairs. But today we have the feeling that you must have 80 years, 70 years, 90 years to take part, to be involved in the process. And I don't think that it makes sense.
Yeah, I think those are issues that would definitely need to be fixed in the next republic, or when things change, or when we go into the new constitutional assemblies to discuss the new constitution of Cameroon. Those factors really need to be considered. I don't know if Prof wanted to say something here, because Frank already said something that would help me move into the topic of the day.
No, I agree. I agree with what Ongene said about this. I agree, definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, Frank, and thank you so much, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us now, you're watching the Beyond Africa podcast with me, your host, Ngalim Bernard, and my guest, Franck Ghis and Professor Aimé BONNY. And as Frank said a few minutes ago, in Africa, traditional kingship would let any person, irrespective of age, be king, in as much as that person fulfills the conditions for kingship. Age is not a hindrance. We saw traditional authorities of the West region at the presidency, where Ferdinand Ngo Ngo is receiving different stakeholders. What has that series of meetings by Ferdinand Ngo Ngo created as an impression, especially when we see that the meetings are taking place at the presidency of the Republic, which is supposed to be the residence of Paul Biya and the office of Paul Biya, but he is not there to receive these people who are coming to do consultations on behalf of the president in anticipation of elections. So what does that create as an impression regarding the center of power in Yaoundé? Prof.
You know, as I said earlier, in Cameroon, we don't have laws. We don't have constitution. We don't have regulation. The constitution of Cameroon, the laws is Paul Biya himself. Paul Biya and his regime does what he wants. So the residency of the president is the home, the house of all Cameroon, not the house of the president, not the house of the party of the president. But we see that the campaign of the CPDM started. I started in the house of all Cameroonians. That means that the confusion between a party, CPDM, and Cameroon is tight, is obvious. But we observe, we comment in the social media, in TV, we comment these things that couldn't happen anywhere else apart from Cameroon. Of course, it's illegal, this type of... moreover, Ferdinand Ngo Ngo is not the person who should invite people to discuss about how the election will be running for the President Paul Biya. The man is Mr. Kwete, the Secretary General of TPDM, not President Ngo Ngo. But Ngo Ngo does it because he's now the President of Cameroon. Ferdinand Ngo Ngo is the truly President of Cameroon, but illegally is the President. That's why, as you said, he received all gifts, all power of our traditional chief. But you can't take the power, traditional power, to give him to another person. What you receive is for you. So saying that is on behalf of the president is the joke, is lie, is not serious. We Cameroonians see it, observe it, we applaud. We just discuss. Although people should have to protest because our republic is in the hand of bandits. C'est des bandits. It's not serious. It's not just serious.
Thank you so much, Prof, for bringing those items into light and for your very strong opinions. They are your opinions about what you think about this. Let me come over to you, Frank. Do you think that the absence of the president and the constant presence of a de facto president in the person of Ferdinand Ngo Ngo raises a credibility question on the presidency itself and on the elections?
The thing is, if you want to check on your relative and the only information that you have from this relative is a proof of life, it means your relative have been kidnapped. Full stop. We are in a country where we can easily say that our president has been kidnapped. Because if the only thing that we have from him is a proof of life, we saw him last time he was receiving the nonce apostolic of whatever. Oh, we saw him. Like, we live in a country where definitely where we need our president on the field, we just have proof of life. Like, oh, is it dead or is it alive? I think the only thing is that this guy has been kidnapped. It doesn't make any sense that we receive people with photos. Okay, the very first time we can understand that, okay, those people, the very first people received in this role play, because for me it's a role play, was the ministers and the parliament members. Okay, we can imagine that the ministers usually they see him every day. Same thing for the parliament, because they are a member of the same party. They used to be together every day. The president organized, daily meeting or maybe weekly meeting. So they used to see him. We can let us assume it like that. But okay, what about the civil society? It means this person has been kidnapped. This is the only thing that Cameroonians have to know. And we are living in a society where I have the feeling that we try to lie to ourselves. We are talking about a man of almost 93 years old. This man deserves to rest. Nobody will accept his grandfather, because he's a Greek father. Nobody would accept his Greek father to run a country like Cameroon and be okay with that. Nobody would accept a man of 93 years old.
In this whole situation where the president is unavailable, nobody sees the president. Even before he was 92 years old, you only get to see the president when he's making a speech on February 10, on December 30th, and when he's coming out on May 20 to observe and supervise the military display. The other times you see him is when he's flying out of the country, or he's flying back into the country, showing a complete disconnect between the presidency and the citizens. And now we are facing a very serious election. Why is the conversation around this election not about the president's absence, the president's capacity, the president's competence, and the president's output report counter-review for all these years? I don't see as if that is those are the pressing issues. The pressing issues seem to be on the other side and not on the party that has been in power for all these years. Why do you think that is the situation, Professor Aimé BONNY?
To follow what Mr. Onguene said, the fact that we can live in the country without the chief, because we don't have the chief. We don't have the chef d'orchestre. We don't have the president. Now we have the image, just image. And we are led by an image. And this process was be done step by step. Before, we had a president who lived much of his time abroad, in Geneva, in Hotel Continental. Although in any other country, you can't see that. But Cameroonians accept the fact that the president can live in another country. The document of Cameroon, who should be signed, will become by airplane with some minister to the Hotel Intercontinental to be signed there. In the contradiction with our constitution, because the constitution in the first article says that the presidency is located in Cameroon, in Yaoundé, and in Etodi. But two ministers, first was the minister Owona, told us And the second is one from Bafia, who died recently, who confirmed that he used to go to Geneva with the document to be signed by the president. So the president walked outside the country, although the constitution said another thing. But the Cameroon accepted that. In 2018, during the campaign of this last election, he did just one trip in Marwa, just one. But we voted him. And these politicians, now from 2009, we didn't see president. We didn't see him. Even when we have a bad event that the president should be up, we didn't see him. Now it's just image and one person that we didn't vote him. Ngongo is not our president. Even he have the permanent signature. This is not justify the fact that now he can do all things as the president with the image of president. We accept that. The next step, I will tell you rapidly. The next step is that now Ngo'Nguene said the president is kidnapped. President will be died soon. When president will be died, definitely they will convince us that their in French is l'âme, son âme peut gouverner. Yes, they will tell us that no, president is the best person in the world. Even when he will be in the cercueil, he can die us. And the Cameroonian will accept that because we accepted those things that the normal person of the world can't accept. That's it. That's why they are too confident, and they know that they will win. I'm very curious to understand how Ngo'Nguene will tell that his candidate should be the next president in this context where the people are resigning. We don't have the people. We don't have the population. We are not like Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and other people. How we can do with such disadvantage? This is very big concern.
All right, thank you so much, Ngo'Nguene. You wanted to add something to what
I just wanted to add that I think maybe all the people in the world has to go through some situation to believe. I believe in, I don't know how you guys call it in English, but in French we call it catalyseur. I believe in something that can, this spark that can change everything. When you see how we Cameroonian are, it was the same thing with Tunisian people. The people of Tunisia was kidnapped by a man and his wife family, Leila Tribalism, who was the first lady of the country, and all the brothers of Leila Tribalism was own almost everything in the country, exactly like Ngo today in Cameroon. And what happened? A no-name man. Nobody knows about his existence, about his life. He was just selling his apples in a marketplace, asking nothing to no one. And I don't know, just a police woman, she came and she dumped his apples on the ground. And this was how more than 4 and 5 presidents all around the Arabic world has been kicked out. So what I want to say is that I believe in that spark, that little spark that can change everything. It was the same thing. Remember, in 1992, it was the very first presidential election up to years, and nobody could imagine that a party that had been in place like for decades. Because when I say party, before being CPDM, there was NU before with Aijo. So in 1992. Young Fungi almost win the election in a country of maybe 25, 30 years of monopartism. So 1992 was a spark. For me, was that spark that Cameroonian need. Yes, you can say.
When I listen to you, it's like you are looking at these elections not actually as an election, but as that spark, that catalyst that can bring change. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, we have to take all the possibilities. For me, I think we have to explore all the options that we have, and elections are the very first option that we have. And being a lawful people, we have to follow the law. I think just you don't know what can happen. Nobody know what can happen. Just by clicking your finger, you don't know what can happen. So for me, I think the best thing to do first is to go there and to show them that we don't agree with them. Because what happened in 2020, for example, what happened in 2020 is that you have some candidate who was like, oh, we don't want to go through that process, which is good, which is fine. But I'm not sure that it's really helped the country to develop himself. I don't have the feeling that it was the best solution to do. And at that time, the people was resigned that this abstention is the winner of all elections in Cameroon. So if we want to continue in that way, nothing will change.
I want to talk a little bit about the abstention being the dominant force in the elections in Cameroon. On what are you basing that argument? Do you base the argument on the fact that there is a credible electoral register on which every Cameroonian has been registered? You are going into elections knowing that you have 6 million Cameroonians who can vote, and these 6 million Cameroonians are located in subdivision, division, region, village, polling station, and you can ascertain that all of them are alive. I ask so because I'm going to share the link again in the description here. I had a conversation with somebody from UPC Manidem who observe and monitor the website of Elecam, and they have come out with lists of people who are dead but are still on the website. There are kids on the website, so there is a lack of credibility. Article 80 of the Article 80 of the Electoral Code says by December 30 every year, Elecam should publish the electoral list, national electoral list or register for everybody to see the list. They have never done that. So when you're going to the elections, what are the calculations you are having here and basing your arguments on the fact that it's always the abstained who control the outcome of the elections?
Okay, two things. I'm not naive. To be honest with you, there's a lot of dead people in that list, and I think this is one of the problems that we have. We denied everything. There's a lot of dead people in this list for one reason, only one reason: the system of birth and death. The birth and death system in Cameroon is still being with your hands. There's no informatic system who can calculate the person who died or the person who lived. So normally, logically, there's the people on that list, most of them are died. The reason that my opinion about the abstention is about how people of more than 20 years old we have in Cameroon. For me, this is my point of view about the abstention. I don't care about Elecam numbers because it's logic. Even we living in city, having went to school and everything, when somebody is a member of our family died, I'm not sure that the first thing that we think to do is to make a death certificate. I'm not sure. We living in cities, I'm not sure. And even you do a death certificate, your death certificate will be with the hand of the person who's gonna establish the death certificate, which is a real problem. I think the only way for us to know that we can have at least 50% of clean election list is if you just have to take the file of identification file, because the identification file is the only national file which can be put in information system. Why? Because it's a reason why it's very difficult to have 2 identity or 3 identity in Cameroon, because the system is, if we just have to take this system, when you go up to 20, automatically the system adds you to the electoral list. If you don't renew your ID card, automatically the system deletes you from the list. This is the best way for us to know that we don't even need electoral card. This is I think is the fullest thing that we can even imagine.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's hear from Prof.
You know why we still have feelings death certificate by hand? Why? Why we don't move to the informatic system in Cameroon in many things? Why we can't publish vote as soon as of vote are closed as in all other countries, even in African countries? Why? The reason is one, the regime don't need to have the normal election process. So these things is part of the fraud system of the regime. You have to keep it in mind. Having many people to the list, having less abstention doesn't matter. Doesn't matter in a system where the only body that can give the official voting rate is Elecam. And we know that Elecam is part of the system. And the only person who can decide if you have a conflict of interest is the Constitution Court. And we know who is Constitution Court. We know who is Clement Atangana. So for me, we can't talk about the election in Cameroon as we are in the normal system, in the normal country, where we call people not to go to the abstention. We call candidates to do a coalition. No, the system is already blocked because what is happening 5 August in co-constitutional is just unimaginable in the norm country. But we accept that till now. That's why I used to say now that my problem is not Paul Biya regime, because they do what they can do. They can't do otherwise. Because you are not able to give your population the good lifestyle, the good condition, but you want to stay there, and so that you still normally you merit to go to the jail and not to be. You know that if you lose election, we will go to the prison, and you have to keep your life safe. That's why we will go. We will do all your best to keep the system. So that they do is normal process. The problem is you and me, the population of Cameroon, 30 million of people, how we can accept such things. That is the problem. How we can do, we see that even our candidate 11 can be together. This is a shame. But it's not just this candidate, it's also people. Because when we see how we are talking in the TikTok, social media, and so on, we have many groups. Group of Bassa, group of Bamileke, group of group of tribalism is the problem of Cameroon.
Prof, are you in any way saying that by Ferdinand Ngo Ngo receiving funds of the Northwest, funds of the West, funds of the Southwest, funds of the East separately is indirectly perpetuating tribalism in Cameroon?
Definitely is one of the issue, one of the reason, because the regime developed tribalism. We live in the country where, of course, when you are Bamileke and you live in Ebolova, all Bamileke will be together in association of Bamileke and so on. But this is a normal process, because when white people live in abroad, they are also try to be together. In French is juif. We know that juifs are very in solidarity together. This is a normal process. As soon as God creates people with different color, so the difference will be. But the magnitude of this difference was developed, initiated by the regime to divide people, divide to keep the power. But the problem is that our people, these funds, these treasury chief, they are playing for themselves, not for their population, their village. Population to be aware of the fact that their life depend of this election. We go to the election just to accompany Ngongo, as we know that we say that it's Paul Biya, but Paul Biya is kidnapped. I say that he's died. He's not, but it's Chantal Biya and Ngongo. We want to give them 7 more years, and we know that if they succeed, they will now be confident with the fact that they can build the system that they will have 40 years again. So how we can interrupt this process? This is the challenge that each of us have to think seriously.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ongene, the chiefs in the past would have been those people who would represent the population and say, Mr. Ferdinand Ngo Ngo, we are tired with the current regime. We would want to see the president. We want transparency. We want justice. We want fair elections. But it looks like the chiefs just went in there, met with Ferdinand Ngo Ngo. Some of them came out and proclaimed their support for the president, for the incumbent president, and said they are praying for peace to reign in Cameroon now, during and after the elections. The first question that I have in mind is, are the chiefs thinking that Cameroon is at war, or Cameroon is going to be at war, or the elections are going to generate some war? Prof. Ongene just dropped, so I'll pass the question over to you.
You know, to understand the position of the traditional chief, we have to explain how they become chief in our condition. We know that when white people came in our country, they came to give less power to tradition and all power to the central administration, that they place their people. Like we have our first president, Ahijo, who was a collaborator of the colonial, and the administration, the territorial administration now, Minister of Territorial Administration, is the coordinator of the activity of all chiefs, and they chose chief, not in the basis of what tradition says, but is who are more confident, sympathetic with the administration. Many people pay to become chief, and even some politicians use their power, their relation to become chief. Professor Jacques Famendongo in the south. So these chiefs are not work for their population. They are just the collaborator of the regime. That's why when they go to the invitation of Ferdinand Ngo Ngo, they say anything to support Ferdinand Ngo Ngo, because telling us that we have to save the peace in Cameroon. Which peace you can have when you have such regime? The regime which not respect human rights.
Yeah, Prof, you've raised some critical issues here. I am personally very attached to human rights and freedoms, especially the rights, the freedom of expression, opinion, assembly, everything that concerns with somebody saying what is in the person's mind. To me, it's very important, because if we don't express our minds, we cannot live, right? And so is this why Bishop Kleda actually wrote in his letter that in a state of law, democracy is, according to its basic principles, a framework for exchanges between political and social actors based on justice, respect for opinions, individual freedoms, freedom of association, and the safeguarding of the rights of each person, in particular the weakest. It is therefore an essential means of citizen participation in the animation of social life, which is oriented towards the development of the nation in order to offer citizens better living conditions. Because it looks like Archbishop Kleda is reminding the government of their fundamental role, what they should be doing to keep citizens alive. So is that what a government in this age and time should be hearing from another person?
No, the government can't hear another person, as the government knows that he failed in its mission to give the population of Cameroon peace, food, good health, and other important issue, important thing that every single person in the world should receive. They don't have will to do that. They don't have means to do that. They just need people who can help them to have some credibility to continue to their way. These people is social corpus that Ferdinand Ngo Ngo used to receive.
Were you surprised that Bishop Kleda was not part of the delegation that went to Ngongo?
No. It's not a surprise. I think 7 bishops out of around 20 went there. But we know that normally those bishops that they are officially claim their position against the other terms of Paul Biya, like this bishop from Yagua, from Marwa, from Bakusa, from Douala, Kleda, they couldn't be there because they are the representative of this part of the Catholic Church who are not agree with what is going on in Cameroon. And we know that the most of them are against. But what I can say, I just can say that, yes, of course, in every single organization in Cameroon, you will find people who don't care with the interests of people. They just need their own profit. This bishop who went there is in this line as our traditional chief also. And not only, we thought that the Ngongo received some students, receive other group of the population. But this is just showing us that the Cameroon is a country who is very difficult to understand. As we explain you Cameroon, and you say that you understood. This means that they didn't explain you well. This is true.
Yeah, it's concerning because before Bishop Kleda wrote this letter, the bishops had written 2 pastoral letters in which one they defined the qualities of a president that they want to see in Cameroon, and that criteria does not meet the, let me say, the 10 criteria that they give would not match President Biya in any way. That's why they gave this letter to Ngongo when they went to the presidency, so he could give it to Paul Biya or they manage it the way they want to manage it. Is that one of the reasons for which people are questioning the credibility of the bishops who went to meet Ngongo?
Bernard, I would say that every single person who went to this invitation from Ngongo, which is an illegal invitation, is not the place, is not the role of Ngongo to do it. 2 conditions that are not fit with the logic. So if somebody invites you and you go to the invitation, this means that you are close to that person. And how this bishop who knows that this is an illegal invitation will be against Ferdinand Ngo Ngo will? This is just not possible. There's not a random invitation. There is the discussion with people. We want to invite you. Are you in with us or against us? And so on. They just accept people that we will not have the courage to come to the media and to say that we told Ferdinand Ngo Ngo that this is not normal. They kidnapped our president. They have to stop. Then they knew that, for instance, if Monsieur Kleda went there, the possibility, maybe the probability that Muslim Kleda will give us some insight that I'm not surprised with what this bishop told us. But I want to tell you that Ferdinand Ngo Ngo and the regime didn't need this invitation to know the decision of bishop. So they know the official position of Catholic Church in Cameroon, and they know that Paul Biya doesn't fit this condition. They know that it's not new for them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Aimé BONNY. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us now, you're watching the Beyond Africa podcast with me, Ngalim Bernard, your host, and my guest, Professor Aimé BONNY, Franck Ghis and Mr. Ndifor Richard. Prof, you are the only person who's left in the studio right now, and I would like to hear from you if you have any last words that we could share with that you want to share with our viewers so that they can take a home message.
I will say that first, I thank you to invite me to this important podcast, which is very important. I want to express my deep interest to start participating in some podcasts in English because we are brother, we are in the same country, but we francophone don't think a lot about our friend of English part of Cameroon and what is happened in northwest and southwest of Cameroon concern us or what should be come up with this election. Remember us that Cameroon is a very challenging position. We could be in more challenging position if we are not take care of all our problems. And this problem can be resolved by the current regime because the regime failed to do all its best to resolve the Nozo problem and the Boko Haram problem and the economic problem that people face in Cameroon. So we people, we have to be together, close together, to see what's happening in other countries and what is happening, what's happened in other countries, Tunisia, Algeria, Burkina Faso, and so on, and what is happening in other countries, in Cote d'Ivoire. We people, we are the only solution of our problem, not our politicians, not the regime, and not the foreigner country. Cameroon people need to take care its future. Thank you a lot, Ngalim Bernard, and I will be happy to come again.
Thank you so much, Prof. You will definitely come back again because I'm making this very regular until the election period. We'll need to have these conversations to put all the topics on the table. I would also be having a conversation about these elections, the candidates, and their plans for the Northwest, the Southwest, the Southern Cameroons, and the war that has been going on for at least 8 years now. So we look at solutions together because, like you said, we are all human beings and we need to get solutions to these problems. And when one part of the body is sick, the whole body is sick, and the whole African continent is sick because we are not able to get solutions to our problems. And thank you again for coming to the podcast. I hope to have you next time or let you know when I would like to have you back here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the Beyond Africa podcast. As you've heard from my guest, Africa is going to change. Cameroon is going to change only if Cameroonians, if Africans take the responsibility to drive the change. So be part of the conversation, be part of the action, and be part of those who think about getting solutions for the continent's problems and for Cameroon's problems. In the context of Cameroon, the elections are coming up in October, on October 12th. So be active in one way or the other to get the message out there, to get the strategies out there, and to get a change that is so much needed. You know, the message on this platform is elections are a solution to our problems. Voting is a solution to our problem, and participating is a solution to our problem. Therefore, we encourage you all to stay tuned, watch these conversations that we're having. I have a series of podcasts that I'll be releasing. There is one that is talking about media's role, what role the media should play. There is one that is talking about foreign policy from the American perspective, how America is going to be looking at these elections. Yeah, Prof, thank you so much for coming.